Well, it is the first day of LCS with coverage brought to you by Alienware. I'm joined right now by the man leading Optic, OpticJ or Ryan. All right, so there's a ton of stuff to jump into here. But first off, do you want to describe sort of what your role is in the organization and how you ended up here?
Yeah, so I'm the president of the parent company and the president of Optic Gaming. We own the Houston Outlaws, we own our Optic LCS, and of course we have a Call of Duty team, a CSGO team, and a Gears of War team. So we've been around for a while, dominantly in the shooter genre, the first-person shooter genre. So this is our second season in the LCS, and we've got a lot of ground to make up, per se.
Well, I do want to ask you, and we should say, by the way, this is a role that you came into relatively recently. You were not in this role at the start of last year.
At the start of last year, not necessarily, or at least it wasn't as expanded as it is now. I was the president and COO of Optic. I had moved up to the parent company, which is Infinite Esports Entertainment, as a senior vice president. And then in October of 2018, got promoted to run the entire organization, including all of our subsidiaries. So again, the Outlaws, like I was talking about, the LCS team, and the rest of the company.
So let's deep dive into everything. Okay,
Yes.
so one of the first things I heard during the off season was Optic is thinking. I heard multiple people came up to me and said Optic is thinking about phoning it in for this year. That they're gonna grab like players, pay them like minimum salaries, and just wait out the 2019 season. And this was perpetuated whenever I believe it might have been you. I forget who released the statement whenever Power of Evil left the team. But I remember seeing that, and it was sort of like there was discussion around budgets and what you guys were going to plan on doing. So what really was going on at that time?
Yeah, so at the time, really, when Infinite was set up, it was designed to invest in the surrounding ecosystem, not just esports teams, right? And I think the way that was run under that old structure was just everyone is too spread thin. You're expanding too quickly. You're not focusing on the crown jewels, the top tier global brands and our franchise slots that we invested so much to do. And so when I moved into this new role, we rearranged everything to focus on truly what we believe to be the key value in all of this. And at the time, we just had gone through the process of cleaning it up. What does that look like? Unfortunately, we had to make some tough decisions. We went through a reduction in force, and we had to rearrange some individuals into more optimal roles, but we got through it. And now it's a matter of just looking forward and eyes forward and really starting to build the organization the way that we need to have it to win.
But kind of talking specifically to the League of Legends esports team, that's where I had heard a lot of rumors of you guys sort of coming in and trying to spend very little money or just try to put together like a whatever team to get you through 2019.
Right. That was never true. It was just the situation that we were faced with due to the way that we had, I would say, incorrectly expanded. We were never once trying to get out of League of Legends. We're here for the long haul. And we're trying to push forward and do it right. We want to put the real green wall power behind it, which is what we wanted to do from the beginning, and we've learned. Now let's do it.
Well, I also want to talk to you a little bit about the roster. I had a chance to sit down with some of the other GMs and team owners earlier this split, but maybe you can talk me through, and I don't know how much you personally were involved in the construction of this roster, but you can talk me through the roster that at least was planned to play today as of maybe a week ago or so.
Yeah. So obviously the visa issues, it was a challenge for us, a little unexpected. We thought it was going to come in faster, so we'll be reevaluating our visa approach, per se, right? I mean that very constructively. The management team, our staffing team, Keaton Cryer, our GM of League of Legends, Kodiak, our new vice president, who's running a lot of the Optic operations, and then of course Jacob, one of our senior vice presidents, who's driving a lot of the operations, all kind of came together and felt that the momentum was there for our academy team to really step in. Due to all their scrimmaging, all their practicing, they had the focus there, and until we had Arrow back, we felt it was best to put this team in, and I think it paid off today. It was a strong decision by them, a tough one, but I applaud them for it. They did a great job.
What about more broadly what's going on with the esports team? Because one of the, like even with the main roster, I feel like a lot of people looked at that lineup and they're like, this feels somewhat random in certain areas. Like we've got Crown, who no one would have expected, like probably one of the biggest surprises of the offseason, coming to LCS. And we've got a spattering of other players from more rookie players, the ones that were in the league scene. So again, I don't know how much you can really speak to the construction of that specific roster, but maybe you can talk me through some of the conversation around that.
Yeah, there's some behind-the-scenes stuff that I can't go too deep into. We wanted to expand a little bit more beyond the roster that we had, and of course add some serious depth into very specific roles. That opportunity did not necessarily present itself where we were at the time, so we opted to just say let's get the best possible roster we can within the confines that we're in. So I realize that sounds a little general, but that's really kind of what it came down to. And I think as similar to last year, we had a rough year, right? I think this year we have the potential opportunity to really grow and expand and grow deeper and ideally be a playoff team, but I realize that we've just got so much ground to cover. So I'm not trying to make a large statement about it. We're humble, we know where we're at, we've got progress to make, and we'll get there. So.
We're being swarmed right now by 100 Thieves as they walk by us. Also, the sun is setting, so I don't know if it's getting darker and darker. Okay, he's resolving that. Great.
LED will help us.
Yes,
that LED of a face.
This is the problem. We go from shooting in the summer split where the sun's out forever to this. All right, so you guys ended up constructing this roster. So to what you said, though, right now it sounds like aspirations are more on playoffs rather than like first place or international performance, which somewhat coincides with the next question, which is a lot of people have been placing you guys near the bottom of their like power rankings or predictions or whatever. Do you feel like that's appropriate given the roster that you have built?
Given the roster we built, look, we strongly believe in our individual talent, and we believe that individual talent can come together to be a really strong unit. You know what? The rankings are fair. The rankings are fair. We've got to prove ourselves, right? We didn't do well last year, so no hard feelings on that. We know we're stepping into some very large shoes, and we have very high expectations, especially given the overall context of our org and the things that have been accomplished. So no problem. We'll honor that, and ideally we'll prove everyone wrong, and hopefully that's what it comes down to.
A question I had a chance to ask some of the other owners, how do you feel about the current state of LCS and sort of what the league is doing for the franchises that are a part of it in terms of sponsorship and brand building and all that kind of thing? How do you feel about where everything is 1 year in?
We feel that positive progress has been made from last year. Spending some time with Matthew, who's really starting to drive more partnership discussions on the LCS side, at least in terms of NA. I mean, you look at the LEC, they've absolutely been crushing it. I think that's kind of rising the tide across the boards for everyone to step up, execute, hold each other accountable, and truly deliver value for the franchise teams that are here. So we're very optimistic about the future of it. Just as we would say, we have got a lot of ground to do. We know that the LCS would say the same thing as well. So it's early, but I do believe that we have the right management team internally, across the different org owners, across Riot, that's coming together and saying, let's make this really powerful. So confident.
My next question is a fun one for you because I don't get to ask this to too many of the LCS owners, but you are part of 2 leagues that take place in LA. I'm kind of curious. Last year was your first year in LCS. Last year was your first year in Overwatch League. 1 year in, how would you feel about these 2 different products in kind of comparison to each other?
In comparison to each other, there's strengths on both sides, things that we appreciate on both sides, and things that we realize on both sides need work. When you look at the overall rankings, did you see the list that Twitter put out about that? So we see Optic in second place as the world's second most mentioned team, and all of a sudden you've got the Houston Outlaws that are the 6th most discussed team on Twitter, and that's a franchise that's a year old, and it's beating out some of the other teams that have been around for years and in other games. And so while we look at it from collectively, how can the league grow as a business, we've just been so focused on saying, have we been successful in at least establishing a footprint or at least paving the way for more momentum to grow into building our individual brands? So ultimately, while they have differing strengths and areas to improve upon, we feel very confident in the franchise system. We've bought into the model. We will continue to support and embrace it. And ideally, we play a huge role in pioneering the way that infrastructure continues to be built. So.
And then final question, and it's actually great if you could eliminate as much as you can on this topic because I only saw it recently, but there was a story about ownership sale going on and all that. I don't know how much you can speak to it, but I mean, I'm sure you'll get this a lot in other interviews as well. Can you speak to any of that or what's going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, so we have to take every article with a grain of salt, obviously. There are certain details that were left out of there, and unfortunately we're not ready to discuss about that. Our management team remains very committed. Our board remains very committed. What we're looking at is the same thing that any other team would look at. What is our next step? what strategic partners do we need in place in order to really push through and develop all the things that we just discussed. So for our fans, I'd feel very confident, whether you're on Reddit threads or whatever it is, we've got this, and I'm excited for what happens this year and beyond. So I wish I could divulge more. We'll do a round 2 of this.
Okay. Looking forward to it. Is there anything you want to say to any of the Optic fans out there who are tuning in, just watched your first win of the split, and curious to see what happens going forward?
Thank you for your incredible patience. I know that last year was a year of growth and trials and challenges and questions. We've got it, and the green wall remains strong on the fan side of it and internally as well. So thank you just for your patience and trust, and we're getting there. We will get there.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for the interview. For everyone else, you can check out the rest of my coverage of all things esports right here on my YouTube channel. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching that interview. It's so good to be back at LCS, creating all this content for you. I do want to give a big shout out to Alienware for their support of my LCS coverage this year. By the way, I don't know if you've been watching LCS, but they also sponsor LCS. How cool is that? If you might have missed some of the commercials around their new Area 51M. It's this badass desktop replacement laptop. I'm going to see if I can get my LCS editor to show some footage of that right now. Maybe that's what you're seeing. Regardless, just go check out their stuff. There's a link in the description, dell.com/Travis. They've been helping me out. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to more 2019 coverage with all of you.